Bazinga. Okay, I'm going to try doing this. I apologize if it messes up, but I'm going to do it anyway. I knew it. The second I started recording, the second I hit record, I was going to screw it up. I'm going to try again. Isn't that always the way, dude? You try to do something new, just messes up. What are you going to do? Looking good? And monetize? We'll see. Look at Z. The world is a strange and funny place. I'm in a musical sort of a mood. Today. And I went and got a... Oh, you got an ad. Okay. Well, there you go. See? It's the world trying to give me money through you. That's how it is. Look at Z. That's how it is. I went and had a really, really great experience. I've been going down to, there's a place where you can get half-price wings on Wednesdays right near me. And I went down there. I had gone there last week, and I got their suicide wings. And they were not hot at all, honestly. I was just like, eh. And I mentioned this to the waitress, and we had like a little conversation about it. And so then I come back the next week. It's not like the wings were bad. It's like I wasn't complaining. But it was just a conversation. And I come back this week. I get the same waitress. She remembers me, and I say, "Give me the suicide wings. Don't back off on the hot sauce. Like give me the heat. Give me the heat." And the chef, the cook, comes out and delivers the wings himself, and it's a little old Indian man. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm in trouble. I look at the wings, and they are just saturated in hot sauce, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I am in trouble." And the guy gave me a look of just like, "Here you go. Here's your hot wings." Yeah, boss music, exactly. Like it's like, and I was like 3 wings in. I was just like, oh, like looking at my plate of wings. I got the double order too, so it was just like a plate of these burning hot. I could smell before I even started eating them. I could smell the heat just coming off of them, and just like I was like sweating before I even took my first bite. And you know, you get to that point where you're eating it, and you're like, you just have to keep going. You can't concede defeat. You can't embarrass yourself in front of these people. You've got to finish. And by the time I got to the end, I was like used to it, and I was like, okay, everything's fine. But then the heat is in your body, right? And so I have spent the rest of this day just being like, I can see sounds, right? I can like taste music. Like your senses become like extra heightened. You're like extra ridiculous right now. Oh yeah, spending a lot of time in nature, bud. That is a great way to deal with what's going on with the impending collapse. For sure it is. Somebody's asking here on TikTok, Rick, good to see you, bud. If capitalism is a death cult, what is a viable alternative? I mean, my name is the Canadian Commie. There's lots to learn from systems of communism. We can build systems that sustain, right? That we should be building systems based on what's good for people and not simply based on a profit model. This is the backbone of the death cult, is that instead of, we are literally trading, quite literally, we are trading everything that matters to anyone for money, right? We're taking clean water, clean air, food that you can eat, infrastructure, the possibility of potential infrastructure, anything, and we're trading it for things we print on a screen, right? Things that we just type into a screen. We go tick, 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 and put numbers on a screen, and that's what we're doing. And so we live in this sort of absurdist culture that can only be defined as a death cult at this point. There's just no other way for me to think about it or discuss it. We're dredging up the corpses of the dead in order to funnel them into infernal machines to give ourselves superpowers. And the cost of doing that is that it's spewing poison into the atmosphere, which is going to heat us all up and burn us all to death. Like, this is the reality of what we live in today, and it's like we can't talk about it. It's like we're not supposed to actually address it. Good to see you demand better. Wow, 2 demand betters. We got Demand Better Entertainment and Demand Better Canada. Yeah, make sure you like the video, like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles, right? We've got to actually spread the message, get people to know that, and to me it's just all about letting people see that they're not alone, letting people see that you're not alone, right? You're not alone. That's the true reality of it all. In my view, is that what capitalism is trying to do and what the death cult is trying to do is trying to make sure that we're atomized. It's trying to make sure that we're all separated from one another, that there is no connective tissue throughout the community, and that there are no communities whatsoever. That we are always atomized and left alone and told, and if you stand up and say, hey, wait, can't we do better than this? Then you're told that you're lazy, that you just need to hustle more, grind set, that it's a you problem, right? That they spend billions of dollars to funnel this into a propaganda system to make sure that you don't realize that the concerns you have and the thoughts that you have are shared widely throughout the populace, right? That you are not alone, like you are not the crazy one. That you're living in a society that is in decay and is collapsing in front of your eyes, and we've got to. Sounds like you just live at home and wait for the money to come through TikTok. I have a full-time job, dude. Right? I never understand people who say this sort of very ignorant stuff. Like you're speaking from a position of ignorance by default, and if you're going to speak from a place of ignorance on that, then what else are you going to speak on ignorance about? Right? Like I have a full-time job. That I do this because I think it's important. I think it's important that people know that they are not alone, and that they know that they are not isolated, and that they know that there are people out there who are pushing forward on these ideas, because we have to push forward on these ideas. We have we do have an alternative. The alternative is to die, right? Yep. Even a major 150-year-old bank said that capitalism is still imploding. Exactly. I reported on that yesterday. We were talking about that just yesterday on the stream. That I forget the name of the bank offhand, but it's a bank that the G20 considers to be systemically important, and they're saying that capitalism is in decay. So it's just like, what are we going to do here? Like, what are we even talking about? Like, what are we even talking about? And when we look around, what are the solutions? Like, what are the solutions? The solutions don't seem to be coming from anywhere. It really looks like we are living in a culture of extraction and abandonment. So what are we supposed to do? Right? What are we supposed to do? Just go vote harder. That'll do it. Just go vote harder, right? That'll do it. You could eat a peach for hours. It's a very polite thing to say, Cotton. It's a little out of character for you. Who are you, and what have you done with the real Cotton? How dare you? How dare you come in here with such nice things to say? That beautiful image of eating a peach for hours. Oh God, yeah. Someone said earlier we gotta. Yeah, it is actually insane, Nick, that they want us to vote for Trump or Biden again. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like the idea that like Biden is running again. There are serious primary contenders, but they'll never allow someone like Marianne Williamson. Like we see a lot of this woman these days, Marianne Williamson, right? Like and she is staking her claim on basically saying the things that we're saying, right? That's really what she's doing. But they'll never allow her to lead because it's a death cult. It's a death cult, right? Capitalism is a death cult, and the death cult is interested in the destruction of the species and the destruction of the society for money. That's what it's all about. That money matters most. And if you don't have money, which we invented, it's a false god that we just created out of nothing, right? And if you don't worship money, then you have to be purged from the society. It's madness. It's madness that we're going to see Trump v. Biden again. Literally, game show host, right? Just a narcissistic game show host, and a demented old man who has lost touch with reality. But the idea that the electoral system in America is anything more than just theater at this point, right? It's just theater. It's not producing solutions, and it's not interested in producing solutions. That we have to find alternative solutions now, and we're not going to find those solutions through the electoral system. That's the hard truth. That's the hard reality. Creative society has answers. I mean, we do need to be creative. We do need to come up with other ideas, right? Thank you for the rose. I don't know what that does, but a thank you for it anyway, everybody. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. The alternative is democratic communism, which is why the U.S. empire undermines any elected leftists. Yeah. America needs what France is having at the very least. Yeah. It is the truth. Like, we are not going to find solutions through simply going into a ballot box and voting for the candidate that we want. That the Democratic Party has shown that it's willing to steal elections. We saw that with Bernie Sanders, right? Like that Bernie Sanders had the election stolen by Hillary Clinton pretty obviously. We don't need to pretend like that's not happening. So the idea that there's going to be a candidate that comes through the Democratic Party who's going to represent the people is a joke. And no Republican anywhere at any moment, at any time, is going to be interested in representing what the people want. And the right is, in fact, pushing all its chips into a insane and crazed culture war that if America actually embarks on, and it looks as though it is embarking on, it might not be able to walk it back. That we are entering a very terrifying moment. And it's the nature of this channel is not just to attempt to find solutions, but also to just attempt to allow people to deal with this. Just to deal with this and find solidarity somewhere out in the world. Because what we are going to experience and what we are experiencing is a mania, is a hysteria that we are going to embark on this self-implosion together. And right now, throughout the United States, suicide, I think, is the number 4 cause of death amongst young people. Drug overdose is number 1. Like, we are in a massive crisis. We are in a major and massive crisis. And I feel like I'm here to try to help people make their way through it as best as they possibly can. As best as they possibly can. And I hope that everyone out there is doing really well. China will save us from America. I mean, I think China is just going to sit back and watch. I don't think China is going to get involved with America. And I think that that's wise, right? I think that's wise. That now we are in a period of time where it's gotten pretty obvious that that America needs to be isolated. That America needs to basically spend some time in its room by itself. And the West generally needs to spend a little bit of time in its room by itself and needs to figure its own stuff out. And America is going to enter 100 years of humiliation. It's going to enter a major decline. And there's nothing that's going to stop that, right? Like that's the big thing that I think I hope that we can all come to terms with together. As leftists, as people who are in support with one another, as people who are looking for support with one another, is this real understanding that we're going to witness our culture go through a major decline. We're going to see far-right elements do insane things that we never thought that we would see in our culture and in our country. And we need to expect it and understand that it's essentially inevitable at this point. That there is no counter movement in America. Nothing serious. Like there is some activity and some action, but the most likely thing for us to see will be America's balkanization, that America will break apart. And that's the most likely thing. And hopefully, if you recognize that and realize that sooner, you can begin making moves to begin consolidating locally, which is what we should be doing, is that we should be consolidating locally to try to make sure that we are looking out for those who are around us, right? Get to know your neighbors. Get to know the people who are around you. Get to know the person in the apartment next door, right? Get to know what you can do to help one another. Find mutual aid with one another, because it's not coming from above. It's not going to come from your governor, right? Here in Canada, Doug Ford has literally announced that what they're doing is gutting funding for everything except cops. That if you want to be a cop in Ontario, not only will they pay for you to become a cop, they're also removing the post-secondary education requirement. So they're making it as easy as it possibly could be to be a cop. So they want to flood the streets with cops, and they want to make this basically a police state where everybody's involved in being a police officer, and somehow it's a police culture. But if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, right? If you want to be a teacher, if you want to be a plumber, right? If you want to be any of these sorts of things, too bad. We're going to make it harder for you, right? We're going to cut all of that. We're going to make sure that, and so we're going to cut all of that funding and put the culture into despair, and then turn around and make you face a wall of cops. And that's exactly what we need, right? Dumber cops. Cotton says, so what do the libs do when Biden dies and Trump is no more? They're stuck in this position that they can't move forward ever and spend generations trying to prevent fascism with elections. Yeah, and it's an inevitability that it will fail, right? It is an inevitability that it will fail. For the same reasons that Trump defeated Hillary, that eventually the people who are putting up the front against fascism with these phony elections, voting in demented losers and people and sycophants and corporate sycophants, eventually they'll just not show up. And eventually a real true fascist will get in. And America will be completely gutted. That the gutting of America is a bipartisan project. That both Democrats and Republicans agree that America should be gutted completely. That the deindustrialization of America and the shipping of manufacturing overseas and the harvesting of surplus value from the populace was agreed upon by the Democrats and the Republicans. They both heartily agreed with that position. It was a Democrat, Bill Clinton, that gutted the welfare system. It was a Democrat that created the crime bill, right? That erected the prison industrial complex, the privatization of the prison systems, right? Joe Biden's signature is on it. Like, it's a bipartisan project because the system of capital, because the American system of electoral politics is designed completely, 100%, to ensure that it's only the wealthy that maintains power. It's a dictatorship of capital. It's a dictatorship of capital. And you'll never vote that out, because the only people you'll ever vote for are rich people who want to make sure that the system of capital is maintained. That's the hard truth of it. That's the hard truth of it. Yeah. And exactly as you say, like, does he watch his crime will never go away, or rather increase, yeah, and the cops respond with more violence. Yeah, they're basically creating a system that generates violence, and then the only thing they're willing to fund is guns to fight against the violence that they create. They're creating internal strife and internal war on purpose. It's the only thing that makes any sense now. That the wealthy understand that it's a system of abandonment and extraction. They understand what's happening. They understand that what they're doing is abandoning the public. They understand that what they're doing is creating systems to spread poverty and to spread despair and to spread violence throughout the society. They understand that. And so what are they doing? Cops. Right? That's you get robot cops, you get dumber cops, you get as many cops as you can, just so that when the violence breaks out, as you see in places like France, Well, you think the ruling class looked at France and thought, nah, that'll never happen here, right? No, of course it'll happen here, because they're creating the conditions to ensure that it does. They're ensuring that it does, because they've hoarded the wealth, they've hoarded all of the assets for themselves, and they're not interested in sharing it. Like, you think Galen Weston steps down from Loblaws as the CEO of Loblaws because he thinks he's done a good job, or he thinks that people are happy with him? Like, these people see that there is a tidal wave rising. They see that the tidal wave is rising, and now it's just about trying to get out with as much wealth as possible. Yep, U.S. has 4% of the global population, but 20% of the global prison population. Yeah, that's right. It's it's neo-slavery, right? Is global warming a feature of capitalism? Right? It's pushing people into poverty. I mean, I wouldn't argue that global warming is a feature of capitalism. I could easily see any structure and any system falling into this sort of global warming trap. But what capitalism has done is it has ensured the worst outcome. It has ensured the worst outcome because the solution to global warming is to move away from the system of capital, is to take capital away from fossil fuel executives and from these people and use it in order to build a society that doesn't use fossil fuels and that isn't pouring carbon into the atmosphere, right? But so global warming itself is not a feature of capitalism. That's just a phenomenon. That's a natural phenomenon. But the resistance and the inability to respond rationally to it is certainly a feature of capitalism. Well, and but carbon taxes only exactly like carbon taxes were never put in to be effective. They were always just propaganda. They were always just used to ensure that people would say, oh, okay, something's being done, right? Like here in Canada, Justin Trudeau was basically elected on this idea that, he's acknowledging the existence of climate change, right? That his very first election and the first time he gets elected, he's elected essentially saying, I acknowledge the existence of climate change. He was the first federal leader to have done so, right? And then he starts actually saying like, hey, we've got ideas and we've got policies and we're going to do stuff. And it's not until later that we all recognize and realize that he was grifting us, that he was grifting us on behalf of the fossil fuel industry, that the fossil fuel industry understood that if they didn't actually start to acknowledge the reality of this and try to do damage control, that it's possible that a candidate would get in that wasn't in their control. And so they had their stooge, which is Trudeau, mouth the words that people wanted to hear and put in a policy that sounded like it could work, but obviously was designed not to work. It was designed by the fossil fuel industry, right? Technically it was designed by the IMF and then adopted by the fossil fuel industry. And and so Trudeau's basically walking around reading cue cards on behalf of the fossil fuel industry, pretending as though carbon taxes are what's going to get it done, when in reality what we need to do is seize the fossil fuel industry away from the psychopaths, incarcerate most of them, if you ask me, put them on trial like a hag, basically, ask them very plainly, hey, when did you hear about climate change and why did you decide to betray the entire society, including your own children? Lock them away, forget they exist, take all their assets and use those assets to pivot away. But now we've been so negligent and incompetent about this that we can no longer pivot. We can no longer pivot. That we are going to experience some pretty devastating outcomes. And the only thing that we can do at this point is just to stop polluting, right? Is just to stop polluting. It's a good opportunity. I'm going to play this song. This is, here. Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna be like when I'm grown? I looked up at the crimson smoke-filled sky. I thought, what's the harm in telling one more lie? I said, every everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat, and Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? The burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point in feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat, and Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? And I know one day my maker I will meet, when death's wish comes to sweep me off my feet. I hope by then we've learned a little more. I'd like this place to be better than before, so everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat, and Antarctica is covered in Antarctica is covered in And you know, I still think that we can do it. I still think that we can do it. I know that we can do it. Because the solution to the problem isn't for us to be clever, isn't for us to create something or design something or to make something. The solution to the problem is to acknowledge the power of the world, is to acknowledge the power of the earth itself, is to acknowledge that this place was a garden before we got here. It was made as a garden. We came up in it as it was a garden. The earth is more than capable of healing itself, thank you very much. Doesn't need our help. And if we want to be here to witness the absolute miracle of the earth healing itself, then all we have to do is stop. And there's so many things that we could do to stop. There's so many things that we could do. We could tell Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos to stop shooting rockets at space. We could tell the celebrities to ground their planes. We could tell our militaries to stop this ridiculous adventurism. We could shut off the lights at Times Square. We could do everything we could to just stop the waste that we're producing. And that, I believe, by itself would be enough. But can we actually have a moment where we wake up and recognize that that's what it's going to take? That our imagined reality does not matter more than reality itself. Woke up, Mr. Moon, good to see you, bud. Woke up with a strong desire to blow up my life. I tell you what, bud, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking to a fellow that's traveled all around Canada and is thinking he's probably going to keep traveling. I'm 40 now, and I thought maybe I'd stop, but I got to tell you, I think it's in my blood. It's in my bones or something. That I think my fate is that I'm going to get up and move soon enough, travel around. Because, you know, Mr. Moon, here's the truth of it. We only really get one crack at all this, eh? Like, you're here, I'm here. We don't know why we're here. Like, do you? Do you know? I certainly don't. I just happen to know that I'm here. I didn't ask to be here. I know that food and shelter is being withheld from us in exchange for our labor, which really blows, makes this place suck really bad. But if you feel like you want to see something or do something or go somewhere or find something out or take a risk, throw the dice in, right? I say do it. I don't care how well positioned you are right now. I don't care how well you're doing right now. You know why? Because you die. That's the hard truth of it. And when you get to the end of your life, are you going to look back on this moment that you're feeling right now? You've got this strong desire to blow up your life, and you're going to look at it. And if you don't, are you going to look back and think to yourself, man, I wish I did? I wish I had taken that swing. I wish I had taken that chance. I wish I had gone after that girl. I wish I'd gone after that opportunity. I wish I had done that thing. I wish I had. Even if it had failed, I wish I had done it. Because you know what the truth is that when you ask the elderly, when you ask people, hey, what do you think about your life? What do you think when you look back? What do you wish you had done? Nobody says, I wish I hadn't have done that thing. Everybody says, I wish I had have done that thing. That there was a thing that I had presented in front of me and I was given the choice and I said no because I was too scared. I was too secure and I was it was too foolhardy. It was too positioned. I wish I had done it. And you know why? You know why? Because there's no such thing as security. There's no such thing as safety. It doesn't exist. You know how I know? Because you die. Because you die. It's built in. You can't escape it. Not one living creature that has ever touched the earth's soil has ever lived through it. So I say, you plant the dynamite, you light the fuse, and you walk away from it. Because you've got nothing to lose. You've got nothing to lose but your life. Because that's the only thing that really matters at the end of the day, isn't it? Is your time. Is your time. And we trade it for paper dollars, which we created in the first place. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah, Rusty, exactly. Nobody says they had wished they had worked more overtime. Exactly, Rusty. Good to see you, Radio. Good to see you, Anemone. Good to see you. Oh, Fabella, good to see you. My experience is success. Get off your couch and go get it. If you don't like capitalism, go to Cuba and live in overcrowded housing and starve. Hey, yuckles. It's amazing how these people demand our respect and when they say this kind of stuff. Like, it's amazing. I wish I paid more money in tax. I do. Like, it's like, what's success? What is that even? Like, what is success? Like, you're on a plane of existence where everybody dies, and death is the great leveler, and no one will remember you were here, right? No one will remember that you were here. No one will care about your, like, extra $10,000 you made so that you could snub your nose at other people, right? Pretending as though saying snarky comments on TikTok matters at all, right? Like no one's gonna give a shit about that at all. So, like, what are we doing here? Yeah. Stop being lazy. Don't. We're demanding you actually. I work a full-time job, dude. Like, I work a full-time job. Like this, I'm doing this because there's a very serious situation going on that you're ignoring, right? Like, that's all you're doing. Like that's all you guys are doing. Like, you're all you're doing is ignoring the extraordinarily serious problem that we're going on and individualizing it and pretending like, and then gaslighting other people. Like, that's all you're doing. It's a form of gaslighting that you're committing to. You're just telling people to stop being lazy, work harder for a system that's destroying you. Right? That's what you're doing. And from my perspective, it's just very odd. I just find it to be very odd. Like, the system, it's a death cult, right? Capitalism is a death cult. It's actively working to destroy us, actively, on purpose. Major systems are doing everything they can to discard us, to throw them out. Like, the Federal Reserve is attempting to increase unemployment, to increase homelessness. We are being actively abandoned by huge corporate forces, by massive forces that exist throughout the society. And you guys are walking around telling people to not be lazy. Like, the analogy that I like to use is it's like you're in a big giant boat and you're looking at people who have been thrown overboard, screaming at them, just swim harder, right? How seriously do you think I should treat a person who is saying, just swim harder, while they were standing beside lifeboats and rings and things like this, while there were lifeguards and systems that we could use in order to get the people out of the water and onto the boat, but you guys are just standing there saying, swim harder! Like, how seriously do you think I should take that? That's exactly how seriously I take it. Mr. Moon says, I feel like my soul hates my job more than myself does. Does that make any sense? Yep. Well, Mr. Moon, I mean, like, if you want to get into the deep existential waters, like, we can get into the deep existential waters. Where are you in education, bud? Well, it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Here in the West, the education system is, in my view, a complete failure. Like, it's designed to propagandize people into believing that systems of capital are how we're supposed to live our lives. That we take 12, 13 years of a child's life away from them and teach them and grind them into this idea that sitting behind a desk, listening to lectures, doing what they're told for a grade is what life's all about. We're essentially preparing them for capitalist work and to do what they're told. And the people who are compliant, right, the people who obey, get good grades. And the people who are not compliant, who see through this system and see it for what it is, get bad grades and aren't allowed to move on. And so what you end up with is a society of yes men. And that's the hard truth about the system of education here in North America, that it's not actually for improving the quality of life of the citizenry. It's not there so that people can figure out what they can do or what they need to do, right? It's not for any of that kind of thing. It's for it's to get people to be as good a cog as they possibly can be within the machine. That's what it is. And so even your position, you teach English as a second language, like that's honorable, right? That's honest, right? There are people who don't have language skills, and you're teaching them language skills, right? Like that's there's something, like, that's a necessary thing. So there's something honest and honorable about it. But your underlying subconscious, your creeping consciousness knows that what you're doing is you're teaching people English as a second language so that they can get a better job working for psychopaths. Like, that's what you know, right? That you are giving people who don't have a skill so that they can sell themselves into a system of wage slavery more effectively, which is essentially what all of these right-wingers are talking about. right? That's what Peterson and Shapiro and Crowder and all these guys and all these people on TikTok, that's essentially what they're saying. That you need to get better at being a wage slave. And you know intrinsically, yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. How could it not be? We don't actually discuss in this society the reality that it's a wage slave system and that we're all wage slaves, right? That we're all just supposed to ignore that or glorify it or pretend like it's human nature or any of that kind of stuff when it's a structural reality. It's a wage slave system that we rent ourselves to a sociopath, psychopath class of capitalists who do no work and are parasites and are completely worthless, provide no value whatsoever. And the only solution that any of them and any of their sycophantic defenders are willing to say to us is just be a better wage slave. And so even though your job, like in theory, you would think that your job, you could get a lot of joy from that. And I bet you do get a lot of joy from it. I bet on an individual one-to-one level, you do get a lot of joy. I bet you get a lot of feedback from your students. And I bet you talk to students on the regular who say thank you. You know, I got ahead. I was able to do better. I was able to do this. But you intrinsically know that there is something that exists outside of the individual one-to-one level. That we don't live in an individual one-to-one world. We live in a collective world. And you understand that even though you are benefiting people on the individual one-to-one level, that benefit is predicated on top of a wage slave system. That's what it is. That's what it is. Well, you're welcome, Mr. Moon, because that's the truth. Like, that's the truth. And if you can accept it, if you can come to terms with it, then you can live a pretty decent life, I should say. Right? And you could probably just keep doing what you're doing. And live a pretty decent life, I should say. But don't fool yourself about what it is. Don't fool yourself about what it is you're doing. And through that acceptance, maybe you'll probably get better at it, at what it is you do. You'll probably get better at it. Yeah, Anemone says, this is how I feel working for a union. Yeah. They put Tate in jail for pointing that fact out. Nah, bro, they put Tate in jail because he's a sex trafficker. Like, they put Tate in jail because he's a sex trafficker, bud. Like, 1000%, I really got to push back on you on Tate here. Like, Andrew Tate is not in jail because he's pointing out that we are in a wage slave system and that we need to break out of the matrix and any of that kind of stuff, right? Like, they put him in jail, and he should be in jail because he's a sex trafficker. He's a pimp. Like, that's what he is. So please, for the love of God, can we not bring up Andrew Tate? I remember 10 years ago in Hollywood, we did some good, and we had some really bad stuff, but the But the Butthole Surfers said it's better to regret something you did than something you didn't do. The Red Hot Chili Peppers. Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure, dude. That's for sure. I'm glad, Mr. Moon. That's what we're here for, bud. Like, I am here, and the thing that keeps making me hit record, and the thing that keeps bringing me back is that I know there are people out there in a position of despair. I know that they're in despair. And they're in despair because all they're surrounded by is people who are just telling them to buck up, bootstrap, just work harder, right? These emotionally detached people who are emotionally detached by the nature of the lack of their training. We're not trained to be in connection to our emotions. We're not trained to deal with our emotions. We're not even trained to accept that we have emotions. Do you at any point in your life pause and contemplate and consider your emotions? Ever? At any moment? Right? And so what I continuously have found that I'm encountering, and I'm going to start leaning into it more and more. I'm trying to start leaning into it more and more. With my TikTok thing, I've changed what this all says because I'm trying to find a more effective way to communicate this idea that I am here for people who are in despair. Because I myself have been a person who has been in despair. I know exactly what despair feels like and looks like. And I know exactly where it can lead you. I know exactly what it does. And I know exactly how to get out of it. I know precisely what to do. And so when people come to my doorstep in despair, I hope that before they find their final solution, they find me. Because that's what it's all about for me. That's what this is all about for me. We are about to go through some wild, wild, wild shit right here. Suicide is already number 4, and it's gonna climb. Drug overdose is number 1, and it's gonna climb. Murder is gonna climb. Murder is gonna climb. And so despair is gonna spread, and it's gonna spread fast. And so when people find despair, they're gonna find me. Mr. Moon, that's a good one. Tai Chi, teach it on the side, like to do it more. Committing to that kind of thing is a good idea, my man. Can I tell you, like, it seems to me, I always recommend, right behind me, I don't know if you can see it, I've got a chakra poster. Investigate the chakras a little bit more. Not as a spiritual practice, not as like some hubu-jubu stuff, but just as a way to think about your own emotions, your own self. To think about things like fear, to think about things like sadness, joy, your own personal solidity in the world, right? To think about how your physical manifestation and your spiritual manifestation connect with one another and ally with one another. Think more about the chakras, because to me that is a way to think about your emotional self, because we don't think about our emotional selves. And if you're not thinking about your emotional selves, if you're not grappling with your emotional self, then you can be whisked away. You can be whisked away by your emotions. And your emotions, people have this very foolish idea, this very, very foolish idea that I'm in control of myself. And I know what I'm doing, and I can make these decisions, and I'm where I'm at because I'm smart, and I'm where these at because I have ascended the meritocracy with my competence and all this kind of foolishness. And it's a total denial of what's actually going on within the self. And we have these ridiculous ideas that we are brains inside of bodies instead of bodies with brains. And we have these very, very foolish ideas about how we exist in the world. And all of it leads down to this path of simply not grappling with our emotional selves. With our emotional selves. And not accepting that we need to do so. And that we should do so. And that it's good for us to do so. But none of that is actually beneficial to the capitalist class. It's not beneficial to the capitalist class to have people who are emotionally attuned. Because if people are emotionally attuned, then you can't sell them things. That's the hard truth about all of it. Is that if you have a content, emotionally attuned populace, then you can't sell them solutions. And the point of this whole like Peterson, Oprah, like The Secret kind of thing is that they're taking these forms of spirituality and marketing them and turning them into marketing strategies so that you're always connected to the, you're always seeking wisdom from somebody who's trying to sell you a new book instead of seeking wisdom inside of yourself. Instead of looking inside of yourself and actually saying, what do I think about this? What do I feel? Where do I feel these things? Where do I feel these things? And where should I investigate these things? Because we're not just one thing. We're not just one thing. You aren't just one thing. You are many things. There exists inside of you many different things and many different ideas and many different voices, if you like. There exists within you many different opinions. And if you don't actually address those opinions, if you don't actually speak to them and listen to what they have to say back to you and take them seriously and try to find a consensus, then you're going to live a very confused sort of a life. And so I highly recommend everybody look into the chakra system, because it's a good way to organize what's going on inside of yourself. I'm very skeptical of Peterson generally, especially recently, because honestly, Peterson sold out. And he was always a liar. Like, he ascended to popularity based on a complete and total fabricated lie. He lied about the nature of the legislation he was fighting against. And it's no surprise. And now he's just spreading anti-climate change propaganda, right? He's a fossil fuel apologist now. And so, to me, I think Peterson's just gone off the deep end. Like, there was a glimmering moment where I actually think he was interested in his sort of stated agenda of, like, helping people. But now I think he's just a complete and total capitulated sellout. But Gabor Mate, I don't mind. Everything I've heard from that guy, I've been like, yeah, all right, sure. But my suggestion, Mr. Moon, right? Like, and I'm saying it over and over again. My suggestion to everybody: stop looking for someone else to solve your problems. Stop looking for external wisdom. Stop, and I understand there's a bit of a contradiction, because here I am giving you external wisdom, but stop looking for someone else. Stop looking for a teacher. You've had lots of teachers in your life. You've had lots of them. Have they helped? Really? It's time to turn the eye inward. It's time to address your internal self and to actually learn from the real teacher. To learn from the real teacher, which is creation itself. What, you think you think the universe doesn't have something to say to you? You think the universe spent all of this time and this effort randomly generating you just to cut the cord and leave you adrift? You think there's nothing going on inside of yourself? You think there's nothing going on? Here's the reality. No one can give you advice about your life, because you are the expert of your life. You are the only expert of your life. No one else can give you advice that's actually worth a goddamn, because no one has actually lived the life that you have lived or are living. You are the expert of your life, and if you feel after you actually do the work and analyze and figure it out that this is the path I want to go on, then you are right. And somebody who's telling you otherwise is only doing so because they're afraid for you. Well, too bad for them. Bully for them. And this is what I love about the chakra system. That it's fear, pleasure, love the self, love others, tell the truth, think the truth, live the truth. That's the structure of the chakra system. And most people, I would say most people, are living in a position of fear. That all of our actions are coming from a place of total fear. That we're afraid. And so we make decisions not because we want to pursue something, or we're interested in it, or we have desire, or even love, or any of these ideas. We do it because we're afraid. We're afraid. That's why most people continue upholding the status quo. Capitalism takes advantage of this, for sure. The system of capital takes advantage of this. The wealthy take advantage of this, for sure. Of course they want you to be afraid. Of course they want you to be scared. You're never going to organize and work against them if you're afraid to do so. But then you start to ask yourself, well, what are you afraid of? Really? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What, are you afraid you're going to die? Well, that's going to happen anyway. Are you afraid you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable? That's probably going to happen anyway. Are you afraid you're going to disappoint everyone around you? Well, why are you thinking about them and not yourself? What are you actually afraid of? And when you actually ask that question of yourself, focusing your energy on where your fear comes from, which is your root, right in your bowels, right where your dick and balls are, straight up. When you actually ask, you may get the answer back. You've got nothing to be afraid of. There's no panther coming after you. There's no hunter coming after you. You're not going to starve. You're not going to be hungry. You're not going to be homeless. Like none of these things are going to happen. You're fine. And what I love about the chakra system is that the very next question, if you go up to the next level, isn't are you doing good, or are you fighting the good fight, or any of this kind of stuff. The very next question is, are you having any fun? Are you having any fun? I love it. It's this beautiful juxtaposition that exists within this system of thinking that says, are you afraid? What are you afraid of? What fear do you have? It's a deep existential question. And once you feel resolved on that, no, I'm not afraid. I'm not being chased by anything. I'm fine. Well, the very next question, hey, are you having any fun? Are you enjoying yourself? Are you laughing? Are you having orgasms? Are you having a good time? Why not? There's lots of opportunity for it. There's lots of opportunity for it. Right? And then after you resolve that, the next one is, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you think you're a piece of shit? Fear of disappointing others is a big one. So you think you're a piece of shit, eh? Like, really? Because that's the only way you could believe that you're a disappointment. The only way that you can believe that you're a disappointment is if you believe you're a total piece of shit. And how dare you say that of one of the universe's creations? How dare you say so? That the universe would spend hundreds of billions of years and generate someone like you for you to turn around and say it was a mistake. That when you focus on your stomach and on your solar plexus, when you try to stand up straight with your shoulders back, as our antagonist friends like to point out, you should think to yourself, no, I am here. I'm here. If not for a reason, if not for a purpose, if not for meaning, then just simply as fact. And my existence is just as valid as anyone else's. And it is. Your existence is just as valid as anyone else's. And you have every reason to love yourself. You have every reason to love yourself. You're teaching people who don't know how to speak the language. That's admirable. That's beautiful. There's something intrinsically sacred and holy about that pursuit. You should feel good about yourself. And the reason why you don't feel good about yourself is because you're afraid and you're not having any goddamn fun. When was the last time you laughed so hard you couldn't stop? When was the last time that you actually had an orgasm that was so fucking crazy that you never thought you'd stop, you never thought you'd breathe again? When was the last time that you plunged yourself deep into water, so deep that you thought you'd run out of air before you came back up to the top? When was the last time you jumped off a cliff into water that you thought you die when you hit the bottom? When was the last time you actually lived your goddamn life? When was the last time you took off all your clothes and danced around a fire? Because your life isn't wake up, go to a job you barely tolerate, come home, jerk off to Netflix, go to sleep, and wake up and do it again. That's not what life is for. You're supposed to be having the kind of fun that apes are having. You're supposed to have the kind of fun that other animals are having. You're supposed to be doing ridiculous bullshit. Stupid things for the sake of it. You're supposed to make art, play music. You're supposed to be jumping around. And this ridiculous concept of pursuing your success won't do you any goddamn good when you're in the grave with a tombstone above you. It's not going to help you one goddamn bit. So once you get rid of this fear, and once you actually have some goddamn fun, and once you actually figure out that you are one of God's creation and you deserve to be here, and you are a strong, powerful person, as valid as any other person on the world, then you can start asking yourself, what do I love? What do I love? What love do I have for the world? What love do I have? Because if you don't love yourself, then you can't love the world. I'll say that one again. If you don't love yourself, then you can't love the world. And it's only after you get yourself right in your heart, where you're not afraid, where you're enjoying yourself, where you love yourself and you're trying to spread love into the world. It's only after you do that that you can even begin to exist in any kind of truth and tell the truth about what's going on in the world. And it's only after you begin to tell the truth that you can begin to be creative, to see opportunity in front of you, to stand on what is true and exist within the space of what is real, and move into the world in a way that is positive in order to make those changes. And it's only when you do that that you can see yourself in the world and take that meta position and understand what it is you're supposed to be doing. And only you know what it is. And only you can say what it is. And no one else is allowed to tell you you're wrong. That's the best part. No one else is allowed to tell you you're wrong because you're the expert. You have no peer in your own life. And this is what I argue for more than anything. That everybody has an idea of what they want their life to be like, and everybody has an idea of what they want to do. But we've created an environment. We've created an environment that caps human creativity, that caps what it is we can and cannot do. And the reason why I find capitalism so offensive is that the capitalists will stand in front of you and say, you're free to do whatever you like. Become excellent at whatever it is you want to become excellent at, right? Just get a better job. Just be good at what it is you do, right? While failing to acknowledge, completely failing to acknowledge, that there is a cap. There is a stopgap. There is a bottleneck on human creativity built into our society, and that bottleneck is, will the capitalists buy it? That's the bottleneck. Will the capitalists buy it? Will this small, tiny group of wealth hoarders actually pay for the thing that you believe you are here to achieve? And the answer, structurally, must be, most of the time, no. Simply based on the numbers. Simply based on the numbers. Because a capitalist doesn't need 1 million pieces of artwork. A capitalist doesn't need 1 million pairs of pants. A capitalist doesn't need 1 million gardeners. They need one. Or a couple. And so everybody else gets told to get fucked. And then what's the argument that the capitalist uses to justify this? Oh, you just weren't good enough. You just weren't good enough for them. And so I want to abolish this system. More than anything, I want to see capitalism abolished as a system so that the human spirit and the human desire to pursue what it is that we are here to achieve can come to its full fruition. That when you hear these right-wingers say, you're supposed to pursue your meaning, well, that's all well and good to say, but there are obstacles. Real obstacles. Real obstacles. And we need to do away with those obstacles and acknowledge that they exist. Well, thank you, Mr. Moon. Thank you, Mr. Moon. I ate a plate of spicy food today, so I'm in a spicy mood, apparently. But I really believe everything that I just said right there. I believe it more than anything else in my heart. We're not just here to work a 9 to 5. And honestly, at this stage in the game, given how badly we're failing on climate change, given how badly we're failing to even build a society that's safe for our children, given the fact that we're plunging our society into war, the number one thing that a person could do, if we as a species and as a people all just went out into fields and stared at the sky for a week, we'd be better off for it. That's how bad we've disconnected. That's how badly we're fucking up. That we need to just stop what we're doing. Sit down in a field and stare at the clouds. Do away with this specious notion that we have to produce something for capitalists to be valuable. We should pick up all our stuff and walk out of the cities. Tell these capitalists to run it. They're the job creators, right? Like they're the smart ones. They know how to run these places, certainly. Well, thank you, Mr. Moon. I appreciate that, bud. That makes it worthwhile. That means I'm happy I hit the record button today. Let's see what TikTok's about. Yeah, I'm just getting some invites. Okay, that's cool. Hope you guys are doing well out on TikTok land. So hold on. Time out for 1 second. Speaking of listening to your body, I've got to go pee. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles, right? Send it around. If you've got $1, think about donating it to the Patreon. Gets you into the Discord, all that kind of stuff. Be right back. 1 moment. treats, buddy? You're being such a good little boy. You're being such a good little boy. Want some treats? Want some treats? I know, treats. I know, dude. I'm essentially alive for treats, too. You want some treats? Here you go, buddy. You can have those treats. There you go. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Oh, what a time to be alive. Yeah, time to start a big old commune or something somewhere. Time to grow some veggies, raise some bees out in the woods, middle of nowhere. Sounds good to me. Yeah, sign me up, nothing. Sign me up. I'm ready for it, man. Like, I don't see much value in what we're doing. You know, I don't see much value in it. That we seem to collectively be just all deciding that self-immolation is the way to go. Seems to be the case. Oh yeah, because you would know. Oh yeah. Dude, this story is ridiculous. Let's I feel like this last hour has been kind of serious, so let's talk about something ridiculous. Wizards of the Coast, the owners of Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, raids YouTuber's house to take back Magic the Gathering cards. They hire the Pinkertons, the historic enemies of unions, in order to go to a YouTuber's house, raid it, to take back cards that they didn't mean to send them in the first place. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about how society will degrade. That the society is going to degrade. And this kind of activity is what's going to become more common. That we are going to see private military forces. Hey, Generation, how you doing, bud? We are going to see, the Pinkertons. You got it, Ligadizzy, the Pinkertons. We are going to see private corporations like Hasbro, because that's who did this, Hasbro. Private corporations are going to hire private military groups, mercenary groups, in order to do things that they couldn't otherwise get done through publicly owned police and military forces. Expect to see more of this. Expect this to become more common. But capitalism's totally working, right? Capitalism's completely working, guys. Don't you get it? Like, capitalism's 100% completely, totally working. And it happened, this is my favorite part, it happened because Hasbro itself sent some Magic cards to this YouTuber's house early. Just a couple of weeks early. Yeah, corporations find out it's profitable to be aggressive in this very, very late stage. Exactly. Yeah, the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, American independent police force that was founded in 1850 by Alan Pinkerton. Former deputy sheriff of Cook County, Illinois, it originally specialized in railway theft cases, protecting trains and apprehending train robbers. Yeah, that 8-year-old girl accidentally got her hands on an exclusive Barbie prototype she isn't supposed to have, so we sent thugs to fuck her up. Exactly. Like, and what is it for? It's so that this one guy won't tell people about these cards a little early. That's it. That they sent these cards on accident to this guy's house. Yeah. And instead of just being like, send him a letter being like, hey, can you not tell anybody? Like, oops, like, our bad. Which I think would be the rational response, right? Just like, hey, or like send somebody to his place to be like, ding dong, hey, we accidentally sent you that stuff. Can you just not tell anybody? That'd be great, right? Like, even a cease and desist letter would be like, fine, right? But the Pinkertons to raid a guy's house seems a bit much, don't you feel? Seems a bit much. Oh yeah, I found this one. I should have led with this one. Mark sitting on a throne surrounded by skeletons. God, man, I wish that Marx was as cool as the capitalists made him look, dude. I wish that he was this cool. You know, he looks so friggin' cool. In other news, 9 in 10 Canadians interested in a 4-day work week. So that basically guarantees it won't ever happen, right? 9 in 10. That basically this is just saying 1 in 10 Canadians are business owners. Although all of the studies have shown very clearly that a 4-day work week increases productivity, right? Like this is how you know that like this is a death cult, what we're experiencing, that the suffering is the point. Is that all of the studies have shown that a 4-day work week increases productivity. Well, why aren't we doing a 4-day work week then? It increases productivity. You get more productive people. You get more out of them. You get more surplus value. You get more wages. Like, you get more out of the wage that you're paying. It's a better system. Why isn't it happening? Because the suffering is the point. Because you can't give people extra time to think about how badly they're getting fucked over by a system that threw them overboard 40, 50 years ago. Right? You can't give people more time to actually contemplate their own lives. You can't give people time to actually think who their enemies are and to realize what's going on in their own life. No, you got to keep them on this grind. That the lost productivity is actually just part of the profit, is part of the structure. It's just part of the system. We're willing to pay that extra amount for the security. They haven't figured out a way to profit off our extra time yet. Once they do, maybe then. Well, what are you talking about? Like, everybody's trying to monetize their free time, right? Like, everybody's monetizing their free time all the time now, right? Like, that everybody's supposed to have, like, a secondary thing and a secondary job. And, like, you got people who play video games streaming their video games in the hopes that they'll become a streamer, right? You got people who are taking, like, their side project, the thing that they do in their spare time, and turning it into small businesses and things like this, right? Because our pathetic culture refuses to take care of its own citizens. And so all of our free time is being monetized all the time, constantly. Right? It's just not being monetized for the benefit of the capitalist class. Yeah, it's the same reason they're making people go back to the office, even if they weren't hired, even if they were hired to work at home. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a big one because a lot of these empty buildings, right? Like a lot of these guys are worried about losing a ton of money. Like, if I was a landlord for these empty buildings that these corporations don't need anymore, I would be terrified, right? Because my entire business model is being this parasite that provides no value to anybody whatsoever and just sells this empty space that I got for whatever reason. And if somebody said to me, oh, hey, we no longer need it, right? Like, I'd be terrified of that. So of course I'm going to lobby people, and of course I'm going to try to push people, and of course I'm going to try to get people back in to say, no, you need these buildings. These buildings matter. You need these. For sure you need these. The worthless parasite needs his money, right? Simple as that. Simple as that. Cotton says, I'd go to a 4-day work week if pay was adjusted to match my hourly that I make with overtime. Yeah, I have to work overtime. A 4-day work week without adjustments is a death sentence. Yeah, I feel that way too, bud. Like, I think that, like, the whole concept of the 4-day work week is that it is with adjustment, that you get paid the same amount. That's always the argument. But that's not how the capitalists are going to view it. That's not what they're going to do. That's not what they're going to say. It's not how they're going to fight for it. Like, they'll be like, oh, sure, you can have the 4-day work week, but we're not paying you for that day. Like, that's not going to happen. And given that the society is already in a free fall collapse, I just don't think people could withstand it. Right? Like all that's going to happen if they move to 4-day work weeks is that people will just have to pick up a second job. That instead, you'll work four days in one place and 3 days in another and never get a day off. Like that's which is essentially what the capitalists are already doing and what they want the society to look like. Right? Just more of the failure that they're building into the structure of the system. Meanwhile, Bank of England economists say people need to accept they are poorer. The Bank of England's top economist has said people in the UK need to accept they are poorer, otherwise prices will continue to rise. Hugh Pill told a podcast in the US that there was a reluctance to accept that yes, we're all worse off. He said in response to higher bills and other costs rising, workers had responded by asking for wage increases and businesses were charging more. UK inflation, the rate of which prices rise, was 10.1% in the year to March. The rate dipped last month from 10.4%, but that does not mean prices are falling. It means they are rising at a slightly slower pace. Inflation in the UK has been higher than the Bank of England's target of 2% for some time. Part of the bank's job is to keep inflation at its target rate. In response to rising prices, it has increased interest rates, which make the cost of borrowing money more expensive. This move, in theory, is supposed to make people reduce spending, so the demand for goods cools down and prices slow down again. Like, no acceptance whatsoever that corporations are just jacking prices because they can. Like, this is what's so embarrassing. I feel like what I'm looking at is the same thing that happened with the climate change conversation. That the news media presents the false narrative as if it's real, which is that people are making too much money. That's the real problem. Or in the case of the climate change, well, the science isn't in, there's a lot to consider, right? But the problem with talking about climate is that you're talking about everything. And if you're talking about everything, then you can't really analyze the subject because it's so difficult. And there is just no discussion whatsoever about what is actually tangibly real and true, which is that corporations are jacking prices because they can. That's all. This isn't a complex or difficult story. Listen to how stupid this sounds, right? Part of the bank's job is to keep inflation at a target rate. In response to rising prices, it has increased interest rates, which will make the cost of borrowing money more expensive. This move, in theory, is supposed to make people reduce spending so that demand for goods cools down and a price rise slows down. So it's like they're trying to convince us that there's this chain that happens, that we do this and then that does this and then this does this, which does that. It's a Rube Goldberg machine. That they tip over a domino, and that makes this domino fall into this domino, into this domino, into this domino. And they're trying to convince us that there's this complex machine at work, that they're manipulating this to make this do this and this, when the reality is that there's just one asshole going, it should be more expensive so I can make more money. That's it. Think about the two arguments. Is it actually that there's one asshole saying more money for me good? Or is it that this Rube Goldberg machine is actually the thing that's happening? Which one of these two do you actually think is actually happening in your society for real? And yet the news media reports on it as if it's the Rube Goldberg machine's the only thing that's happening. And there is nobody at any point anywhere in the world ever just saying, make it more expensive so I can make more money. Yeah, supply and demand is all controlled. The tail is wagging the dog at this point, I believe. I mean, we literally have the corporate reports. This is what makes this conversation so embarrassing for capitalists and the capitalist simps and their defenders, is that literally we have the corporate owners saying to their shareholders, look at how much crazy money we're making by jacking prices. We jacked prices, so we're making crazy profits, bigger profits than ever before by jacking prices on people. And the news media is just like, it's gotta be wages. The wages are out of control. No wonder people find news media to be despicable. News media is despicable. That there's no such thing as a journalist. They're all just stenographers for power. If you are in journalism, then you're like the scum of the earth, because your entire job is to attempt to find the truth of what's going on. But nobody does that. Nobody's interested in doing that. That's not the point of being a journalist anymore. And there's no such thing as journalism in the West anymore. You're either a propagandist or you're unemployed. That's what's going on here in the West. Ugh. Oh yeah. In other news, switching over to Taiwan, group seen celebrating Hitler's birthday in central Taiwan. Normal society. A group of Taiwanese were seen celebrating Adolf Hitler's birthday and displaying Nazi flags at a restaurant in central Taiwan this week. Normal society, though, right? Normal place that we should definitely defend, right? That these people should be independent. What's up, Milo? What's up, my man? What's up, my man? Oh, are you annoyed because I'm talking? Are you annoyed because I'm talking and nobody's talking to you? You think I'm talking to you is what it is, because you're a dog and you don't know any better, right? Little sweetheart. Here, hold on. Can I get you? Can I get you? Here we go. Here we go. Get the Milo cam. Milo cam. Milo cam. If you guys are over on YouTube, you could be seeing Milo right now. He's a great dog. He's a good little man. Yes, he is. He's a good little man. Isn't he a good little man? Oh. I know, buddy. I, too, am worried about what's going on in central Taiwan. We should all be worried about what's happening in central Taiwan right now. Don't you feel? Right? Don't you feel? As the American military continues to pound the drum of like, China's going to move into Taiwan because we're going to antagonize them until they do so. Yeah? Our boys in Taiwan desperately need to be saved. Yeah? We got to keep sending as many weapons as we possibly can into Taiwan to make sure that the Chinese invade so that we can say that it was the Chinese invading all the time. act as though, yeah, the real problem, man, everybody keeps fighting against us and it must be their problem, right? It must be them. They're the real problem. Here, did I fix that? Did I fix that? Sure, good enough. Like, I'd be interested to know what you have to say about the PHAC document on climate change. CR Strifey, I don't actually know what you're talking about, bud, so let's take a look at it. Longtime viewer, CR Strifey, asking PHAC document climate change. What are we talking about, bud? Oh, the public health action. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a sense of desperation. I think that I know what you're talking about, right? So the right wing is doing everything it can to propagandize through climate change denialism that this is the liberals ignoring serious health issues so vote conservative so that we can privatize the system and abandon everybody further, is essentially the conservative position. I actually think that what's happening amongst liberals, and when I say this, I don't mean like the political apparatus of liberals. I mean liberals, right? Actual liberals. Lowercase l liberal. Is that there is like a sinking in and a setting in of desperation. That the desperation is finally starting to actually settle in. Good evening to you, bud. Good evening. That liberals are starting to realize that we are failing, that liberalism is failing. They're starting to recognize that their leader, like the Milo, no more, okay, buddy? All you're doing is whining at nothing, buddy. Come on. You've had plenty of treats, you've had plenty of stuff, you've had plenty of everything, okay? You don't need to sit there and just whine. Good boy. I think that there's a setting in of desperation that I think the liberals in Canada, and not the Liberal Party, like lowercase l liberals, are really actually quite terrified and quite scared of what they're seeing happen throughout the United States. I think they're deeply concerned that that kind of thinking and that kind of politicization of many issues that should never have been politicized in the first place exists within the Conservative Party. I think they're deeply, deeply, deeply afraid. They know that their system is failing. They know that climate change is real and that it's going to cause major problems. And they're trying to find as many ways and as many opportunities and as many pronged attacks as they possibly can to continue justifying themselves and to continue fighting along the lines that liberals concede must be fought along, right? So we'll just vote our way out of the problem is a very liberal way of thinking, right? We've got to work within the system. We've got to work within the mechanisms. And so to me, this is one of those methods and one of those ways that liberals are pushing forward to try to actually take seriously a very serious issue. And it looks ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. Like the public health office and the public health officer, like why are they talking about climate change? Like what does this actually have to do? In a fairly, like the conservatives actually do kind of have a point on this. Like, is this more serious? Is this a more serious health concern than cancer? Right? That this is an environmental issue, certainly, but I think that it's just indicative, and I'm not necessarily against the chief public health officers making a statement and talking about climate change, certainly, but it is indicative of the desperation of liberals, and it really kind of reveals how incapable and unwilling liberals have become to actually do what actually has to happen in order to resolve these issues in a serious way. That it's all very performative. This is a very performative act, right? It's got a very like, here's a high level official also saying something about climate change, right? But it doesn't matter. It's not actually. Yeah, and that document sounds like it's speaking to every leftist liberal talking point. It casts everyone who does not agree with the plans as misogynist, racist, homophobes, exactly like COVID. Yeah, exactly like how it went with COVID. Yeah, and or the Freedom Convoy or any of it, right? Like that liberals can't actually confront and address the core issue, which is the system of capital, right? And the system of capital, because liberals fundamentally agree with conservatives on the idea that capitalism is the end of history and this is the best possible system, that everything is just a culture war, right? That there is no structural economic issue that must be addressed seriously. And if they actually did say, oh yes, this is a structural issue that must be addressed seriously, then they would no longer be liberals. Right? They would no longer be supporting liberal policies and liberal ideas. They would be supporting socialist ideas at worst and communist ideas at best. That what is actually required is a confrontation with the system of capital. And liberals can't do that because liberals agree that the system of capital is good. And I know, buddy. I know, it's a real pain, isn't it? Liberals are the worst, aren't they? Yeah, liberals are absolutely the worst. They pretend to be our allies, but they're really actually dark, bleak enemies for us to fight against. And so what I think you're seeing here is an act of total desperation. And that's my interpretation of it. I think that the liberals don't know what to do. I think they don't have any serious ideas. That their ideas are basically just finger wag everyone in the hopes that finger wagging will result in something serious. Because they have no solutions, they have no ideas. They've had plenty of time to put forward actual ideas and actual thoughts. They've had plenty of time, plenty of power, plenty of authority to put forward all kinds of thoughts or ideas. But it does call out capitalism. I'm very surprised by that. Like, I'm very surprised by that. Like, but like, who cares, right? It's a public health document, right? You should read the whole thing. You want me to read 72 pages? I'm not going to do it right now, obviously. I I could agree with the idea that it's a blueprint for Canada's future. Like it's an idea, right? It's an idea. But like I think the Conservatives win the next election. So this whole thing is probably not going to be very serious. And that this document seems to just reek of desperation. Milo, dude, it's over, okay? No more. No more, dude. You're being very whiny for no reason whatsoever, okay? You're a good boy. You've had lots of treats. Come lie down. Come lie down, buddy. Come lie down. There's a good boy. Come lie down. Oh, not now. Like, you just think it would be a good document for us to use generally, right? That, like, in 10, 15 years, this document gets dredged back up and is used for, amongst the ashes of our self-implosion and self-destruction. Sure. I'll save it. I'll save it, and I'll take a look at it. Yeah. I mean, to me, like, if the Liberals were actually serious, they would start actually talking a serious game about the fossil fuel industry, right? They would actually seriously begin discussing, like, why are we deferring to the people who are causing the problem? Like for real. Like what? Why have we allowed these fossil fuel executives to stay in power at all? Like for real. And it just seems to me like Trudeau is never going to do this. Like he's an inside man. Like he's never going to confront these people. And no, again, like it's all well and good, but this is what I'm talking about, C.R. Strifey. It's finger wagging, right? Like that's what Liberals are willing to do. Hey now, that's what they're willing to do. So what? Well, you think that psychopaths and rapacious murderers and people who are willing to betray their own children are going to look at somebody wagging their finger at them and actually go, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe, yeah. Like, nah. If anything, the fossil fuel industry and the capitalists will look at that as a threat and do everything they can to abandon the Liberals and put the Conservatives in power. Like, that's all that is. Right? That's all that is. Like, I get why the Liberals made this document. I understand that. I'll read it and it'll probably say like a bunch of interesting stuff, and maybe it will call people out. But like the Liberals are the ones, like the Prime Minister of Canada is a Liberal. Like put some serious legislation on the table. Threaten these people seriously. Like threaten these people seriously, like you could have for the last 15 years. Right? I'm sorry, man. You know what? It's like a too little, too late. This is why I use the word desperation. Because I do think that there are lots of people who are in the Liberal Party, lots of MPs, the Prime Minister himself, who are probably pretty aware that they're reaching the end of their term, who understand that they're coming to the end of it, that the Conservatives are actually building a lot of strength, that the Conservatives are actually building a lot of power, that it's pretty likely that the Conservatives will take power in the next election, or if they don't take power, they'll certainly take a huge chunk of it, right? And definitely keep the Liberals in this sort of stranglehold that they're in, and constantly threatening from this position. And I bet there's a lot of Liberals that are like, wait, what did we even achieve over this period of time? Like, what have we actually managed? What do we actually do? Like, this to me is actually the saddest part about this Liberal era and this Liberal period, is that they didn't get anything done. They had all this opportunity and all these chances and all of this and all of the energy from the populace to put forward an agenda that could have done something serious. And it's like they actively chose not to because it was them paying fealty to their masters. And like Trudeau said it best, and so did Chrystia Freeland, right? Like, sure, guys, the environment, breathable air, workable land, a future for your children. But the economy, money, fake dollars we print. Like, and I really do think that like, okay, buddy, that's good. Thanks, bud. Thank you. Jeez Louise, dude. Just sitting there whining away, doing nothing. I really, like, when the Harper administration got voted out, Harper could look back on his legacy and be like, yeah, but we achieved stuff. Like, we did stuff. Stuff you can point at and be like, yep, did it. Achieved. Check. Got it. Done. Right? Trudeau's got nothing. Like, what's Trudeau's big legacy? Like, can anybody point at anything that makes you actually go, like, oh yeah, these last 15 years of Liberal rule made sense? It makes total sense that the leader of the country was this guy because he achieved what? Like, he was the guy who was in power during COVID. You know, so there's that, I guess, where he erected a basic income and then dismantled it and then charged everybody for it. Right? So there's that, I guess. The legalization of marijuana, which is like a day one thing that it's ridiculous that it was illegal in the first place. And like, but what have the Liberals actually managed to achieve? What's the win? Like, what's the thing that's going to carry in 20, 30 years down the line? What's the thing that we're going to turn back on and be like, oh, Trudeau, right? His father, you can literally see his the signature of Jean Chrétien on the bill to pass universal health care, right? Stephen Harper, the reason why we have a child care benefit is because of the Harper Conservatives. Say what you like about Harper, but that's the truth. So millions of people do not live in poverty because of Stephen Harper. Like a 50% woman's cabinet. Fucking great. Right? I'm sure glad that the bomber that's bombing Somalia happened to be a woman. Like, it's so... Okay, buddy. My man. Oh, my man. You're gonna whine at me, I'm gonna whine back. I know, right? I know. Somebody says in TikTok, I don't think Pacific protests are the way anymore. They refuse to hear our words. It's all we've got. Like, it's it. Like, you got to look at France. Like, quite seriously, it's going to take a shutting down of the country. Like, that is what it's going to take. Like, we've gone full blown psychotic. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. I know, Milo. I know. I know, my man. I know I'm not paying any attention to you. And it's a real problem, isn't it? Not paying any attention to my little pug, who's obviously the center of the world, right? Like, I find myself asking this question, like, what's Trudeau achieved? Like, what's Justin Trudeau achieved? And it's dead silence. Like, it's just dead silence. There's just nothing. And I really do think, like, I feel like I've been circling around this point a couple of times, but my dog keeps distracting me, that there are people in the Liberal Party that are there to achieve something, that they wanted to actually do something with the time that they had in office. And now they're coming to the end of it, many of them, and they see the rising threat of the Conservatives, and they see what's going on in America, and they see what's happening, and they're looking back on their legacy, and they're going, oh, fuck, we did fucking nothing. Like maybe we were the people who were in power when certain events occurred, right? And maybe we can take a certain bit of pride that we steered the ship for a minute while we were going through these tough times, but we didn't really put in anything that has any lasting impact. That the Conservatives are going to come in and wipe away most of it, right? Because Conservatives are willing to do that. Like, that's the most embarrassing thing about Liberals, is that they really think that their tiny little piecemeal reformism and the way that they think about it is going to withstand a single Conservative. Like, here in Ontario, one conservative, Doug Ford, comes in and basically obliterates like 15 years of liberal rule in a week. He just literally just goes and wipes it all away. Because that's what conservatives are willing to do. And if liberals don't actually act like that's the truth and just act like, oh yeah, piecemeal reformism, a 0.2% increase over 15 years, that'll get it done. Well, then they're going to get completely fucked over and end up with a legacy that's worthless. That's why no one will ever give a shit about the McGuinty-Wynne years, because they achieved nothing, right? And Justin Trudeau's the same. He achieved nothing. And any gains that they may have made in any single department, so like a 0.2% increase over 15 years or whatever, the Conservatives are going to come in and just remove it, because that's what they've always done, and that's what they'll always continue to do. And we're going to look back on this era, and the people that we're going to be talking about 50, 60 years out from this moment and in this era are not liberals. Like, we're not going to be talking about liberals. We're going to be talking about conservatives, because the conservatives are the ones that actually do stuff. The conservatives are the ones that actually get things done. Ravioli bolognese. Ravioli bolognese. How you doing? I think this is your first comment here. Good to see you. I cannot understand why there are coal power plants still running when we literally can use nuclear instead, which is better in all aspects. I don't understand. It's because we don't have the nuclear power plants built, and they take about 20 years to build. And honestly, dude, I think it really does just come down to straight up corruption and incompetence. That, like, if we had to start building nuclear plants 20 years ago, but like the fossil fuel industry is getting in the way of that. They don't want those plants built because nuclear represents a competition to them, right? They want everything to be run off natural gas, clean coal, all this kind of stuff, right? So it just comes down to basic corruption. And it really, like, your comment really reveals pretty explicitly the failure of the system of capital. That liberal democracy is a failure. It doesn't work. It can't solve problems. It refuses to solve problems. And here's a great example. Why don't we just build a shit ton of nuclear? Like, why don't we do that? If the problem is carbon, well, here's a solution. And you might be against nuclear. You might be listening to this thinking nuclear's bad and all that kind of stuff. And I will listen to this and I will talk about that for sure. But you can't deny that it is a solution. And if we were serious, which we're not, but if we were, then here's an example of something that we could actually do. But the issue is that we're so desperately incompetent and so full of ourselves and so full of hubris and stupidity that we refuse to even grab the lowest of hanging fruits. That everything is just pay fealty to capitalist owners who do not give a shit about even their own children. Like, I cannot overstate the degree to which we are ruled by psychopaths. There is no overstating it. That the people who are in power are the bleakest, darkest nihilists who have ever been in positions of power, ever. With maybe like one exception. And we all know who that guy should be. But time will tell if that's the case. Like, these people do not care about their own children. They do not care about anything. Literally anything except their own pleasure and enjoyment. And their pleasures and enjoyment include raping children on Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island. Like, we are living in a bleak, dark timeline where the people who are in power don't give a fuck at all. And so they're just letting the coal power plants run because they don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter to them. They don't care. They don't give a shit about nuclear or any of this kind of stuff because they don't care about their society. These guys are walking around saying there is no society. And they certainly don't give a shit about their own children. So what makes you what makes you think they're going to give a fuck about you? Adam. Yeah, liberals were very successful at making money for their corporate overlords. Kinder Morgan, MIC weapons to Ukraine. Yeah, you see the oceans. Yeah, believe the climate. Yeah. Good point, Adam. You know, man, you're right. You're right, dude. The liberals were very effective at making money for their corporate overlords. You're absolutely right. Milo, dude, I took you down. Too bad. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. And Caps hated even. Are you talking about nuclear with that, Fiddleford? Good to see you, bud. Almost all of nuclear energy is just blatant lies. It's one of the most safe energies despite the very few incidents in history. You know what, guys? I really do hate to do this, but my dog is like losing his mind. I got to take him down. Sorry, guys. Be right back. Milo, dude, I took you down and you didn't poo. Like, why are you doing this to me, bud? You know we have a deal. Like, you know the deal. Hey, come on. What's this? What are you doing? Dude, you're being a thing, man. Holy cow. Come on. This is your idea. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Jeez. My dog is just getting older. That's the truth. He's just getting older. Nah, he's just getting older, dude. That's as simple as that. He's, doesn't matter. You take him out, and then 2 hours later, he just needs to go out again. And he's just older. That's all. He's losing it. Aren't you, buddy? Dear me. It's a catastrophe. Come lie down, buddy. Come on. Come lie down. No more treats, bud. You've had plenty of treats. You've had plenty of play. You're a good boy. Come lie down. John is gone post-hog. Hilarious. Okay. Now that we're back in business, how you guys all doing out there in the world? Sorry about that. Ugh. Oh, yeah. One of the things that I've been thinking about more and more is that we probably should discuss what the Nazis are talking about, right? Like, isn't it interesting that the Daily Wire, it has this, like, cross here? It's like one step off of just being the Nazi symbol, right? The, Musk on allowing trans treatment on minors. Parents or doctors who do this should go to prison for life. Right? Normal people, right? Just a normal thing. It's cool that there's a billionaire out there who's launching a crusade against trans people, right? That's fun. Hey, Command Genius, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Why is the Daily Wire reporting on what Joe Rogan has to say? Don't you find that to be a bit odd? Don't you find that to be a bit strange? Elon Musk has to be your favorite African billionaire? That's a super weird thing to say, but hilarious at the same time. Like, All Access Live, hang out with Jordan Peterson. Whoa, I can't wait. I can't wait to hang out with my creepy uncle. Like, I know, dude. I know. Like, I don't really spend much time looking at the Daily Wire, but I feel like I should more. Because this is where this is basically where the narrative of the Nazis is coming out of, right? Like, this is essentially the backbone of American Nazism, and we should be paying a lot of attention to what these guys are saying. Yeah, favorite billionaires tend to be Chinese. Yeah, especially the ones that are actually charged with crimes. That's my favorite. Like, this is the one thing when I get into conversations about China with people. When I get into conversations about China with people, the one thing that I constantly find myself saying is, yeah, but China kills billionaires. So, like, communist or not, socialist or not, I'm just like, yeah, but they're killing billionaires, so they're doing something right, you know? Like, I can't hate them, right? I don't want to fearmonger them. Have you heard of this website called Gyoim TV? It's basically a Nazi version of YouTube that spreads anti-Semitic flyers at people. I know, right? Generation Y Me. Keying into the headline. School wins legal battle to electric shock children to correct behavior. The Judge Rottenberg Center for Children with Disabilities can continue to use electric shocks on its students as U.S. Food and Drug Administration ban is overturned. Normal society. It's a normal place. Normal society. In the human race, we're so super normal. Everything's super normal. Everything's super normal in the USA. Everything's super normal in the USA, right? Aren't you so happy that you read this today? Aren't you so happy that what you're seeing is this idea that, like, yeah, it's, U.S. is a South Park episode made into a country. Ravioli, what I like to say is that it's more like a Rick and Morty parody planet, right? Right? It's more like a Rick and Morty parody planet. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, that's a good question, man. Hold on. Like, you picture Rick coming out of like one of those green portals, and Morty is like looking around, being like, "Oh, geez, Rick, is everybody going to jobs that they hate that are actually poisoning and destroying them?" Yeah, it's real NPC behavior, Morty. You'd think they'd all rise up together because they outnumber them, but they just keep going to these jobs that they hate that are poisoning them and going to kill them. The Judge Rottenberg Center for Children. The Judge Rottenberg's, yeah, here we go. Massachusetts. It's located in Canton, Massachusetts. 20. I'm in my 20s, and nobody believes me that the only male teacher in my elementary school paddled kids in the principal's office. Did he do it while the principal watched? Was it like a one-on-one thing together where they were all getting off together? South Park is funny and things reset. Rick and Morty is fucked up and cold while continuing forward to oblivion. Yeah. Like it's... Speaking of South Park country, did you see the video I shared on Discord of Congress, Dems, and GOP coming together to war game a hypothetical war with China? Like they're playing D&D. Yeah, I saw that, dude. Like, that's typical. That's typical. That's like Dr. Strangelove shit, right? Like, in the movie Dr. Strangelove, right? He really takes the piss out of this, like, wargaming idea, where he's got the head general being like, but the big board! And he's constantly pointing at this big, giant board, right, that everyone's supposed to really care about. Yeah, the government's response to Black Lives Matter was a fucking South Park episode. They painted a road, put up a sign, funded more police, and wore some scarves while apologizing. No, they're expensive as shit floor. Yeah. Have a good one, radio. Good to see you, bud. I imagine them pulling out the electric chair instead of expelling someone. Like, love the criticism Canada's getting for not contributing enough to NATO recently, though. Well, here's a fun one. Here's a fun headline. So, Seymour Hersh on his bombshell report of Zelensky embezzling $400 million from U.S. aid to Ukraine. The story is real simple. Real straightforward. So we've just been giving billions of dollars to Ukraine, just unaccountable, just sure Ukraine will for sure use this normally, right? They'll definitely buy weapons and protect themselves. Well, here's a story of Seymour Hersh reporting that Zelensky's actually siphoned away $400 million of that aid to himself. Just took it. Was just like, I could take this money for myself. Normal society, normal society, normal society. We're a normal society. Like, this is for sure what we're doing, right? Like, this is for sure what we're doing. We are giving money to a war effort that we are largely responsible for creating in the first place. And the leaders of said war effort are just straight up embezzling the money and keeping it for themselves. And we're all pretending as though this is just normal, that we gotta defend Ukraine. We gotta defend Ukraine. Like, it's such a joke. The whole thing is ridiculous. And we're starting to get people like Viktor Orban has stood up recently and has called for a peaceful breaking up of Ukraine. That we should break up Ukraine peacefully and separate it into the surrounding regions. Yeah, the Ukrainian country will be responsible to pay it back too. Of course. Like, we're not... I don't know that America is capable of learning lessons. Like, I just don't think it's capable of it. Like, which is why it's going to face this just, like, dramatic decline so quickly. Because if I'm looking at, like, if I'm China or India or Africa or South America, certainly Russia, the Middle East, like, if I'm the rest of the world, I'm going to look at that and go, these guys are crazy. Like, this system is nuts. These guys are leading us down a path of guaranteed self-assured destruction. We gotta get away from this. Like, we gotta isolate this. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's headlines like this and it's stories like this that just make me go like, yep. Like, yep. We gotta do everything we can to make sure that the United States is isolated. Because if we don't isolate the United States, then it's just going to continue destroying not only themselves, not only us, but the planet. Like it's ridiculous what we're seeing. And the people who are going to pay for it the most are the citizens of America, right? And the leaders of the countries. I closed the article. I think the leader of the countries are just going to say, yeah, just get used to being poor. Well, you're poor. Get used to it. That's what they're going to do. That the president of America is going to stand up and go, yeah, just get used to being poor, everybody. Poverty's normal now. Yep, just wait until BlackRock gets in there with their rebuilding and restructuring contracts. That's going to be some deep debt. You bet. Like, you bet. Like the whole thing is a scam, right? Like, the whole thing is a scam. It's all just a way to build this, like, fake little economy. Like, yeah, we bombed, we spent a bunch of money bombing people, and now we're going to spend a bunch of money rebuilding that, and then we'll spend a bunch of money bombing it, and then we'll bunch of money. Like, it's the perfect economy, right? You destroy it, rebuild it, 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 as ad nauseum, right? Like, that's the American strategy of how to build an economy. Meanwhile, what is it actually? It's a transfer of wealth away from the people who are doing the real work, right? It's a transfer of wealth away from the working class into the pockets of a billionaire class that's obviously psychotic. And we all just keep working for it. We all just keep going to work. The U.S. would probably blame their population being poor on them not working hard enough. Exactly. But that's exactly what they are doing. Like, that's the gaslighting. And it's gotten really obvious to me. Like, it's gotten really obvious to me. And it's really, really obvious that the people who are spreading the gaslighting know that what they're doing is gaslighting. And how do I know? Because when you attempt to respond to it on their social media platforms and all of this, they don't let you. So that's how you know it's gaslighting. Because they have no confidence in their own message. That's fundamentally the truth. That the gaslighting only works if it is unchallenged. Gaslighting only works if it is unchallenged. That the moment it is challenged, it falls apart. And so gaslighters can't allow anybody to challenge the message. Which is why, like, so a good example of this, right? Go on TikTok, start swiping. I guarantee that one of the things that will start to happen is you'll start to get lots of, like, motivational shit. I think it's on everybody's feed, and I think it's that way on purpose, that you'll get, like, Peterson or Rogan or any of these guys, and it'll be grind set bullshit. You just got to work harder, right? That's essentially the message. Okay, well then do a response to it. Try to stitch it, try to do a response to it, try to even put a comment on it, right? And it'll just get eliminated. It won't be allowed to happen. Because we are at a point now where it's no longer, like, the whole conversation about free speech is so pedantic and ridiculous. There's no such thing in America. There's just who has the largest megaphone. That's the only thing that actually matters in America. Yeah, about gaslighting, all this court discovery about internal discussions at Fox has been illuminating. Oh yeah, like what have you noticed how with the Tucker Carlson ouster, there's literally no conversation at all about the fact that Tucker Carlson just openly admitted in these documents and told everybody that he didn't care about what was the truth, he cared about ratings. Like, that to me is the only thing that's worth talking about with the Tucker Carlson thing. Like, he literally outright told everybody that he didn't care what the truth was, he cared about ratings. And we're all just supposed to be like, and it's sort of, I guess it's interesting to sort of speculate on why he was let go or why he was fired, right? Although the thing that I think that we should be focusing on more than anything else is this speech that Tucker Carlson gave. Is this the whole thing?
It might be time to start to reassess the...
Here, hold on. I actually think this is worth talking about, so I'm going to play this. And I just got to shut my mic off so you guys don't get an echo. Or can I do... What can I do? Yeah, let me just shut my mic off. Hold on. I can just go... Like... No. Let me be less stupid about this. I'm being stupid. Let me be less stupid. Milo, dude. Oh yeah, I could just do that. Hold on. I am so organized. I'm the most organized. I'm the most organized person in the world. Yes. I'm the most organized. I'm the most organized. I'm the most organized person in the world. Chop. Oh, but if I do this, people on TikTok are not going to be able to hear it. That's the problem. Hold on. If I do this...
terms we use to describe what we're watching. So when I started at Heritage, the presumption was, and this is a very Anglo-American assumption, that the debates we're having are kind of rational debates about the way to get to mutually agreed upon outcomes. Right? So like we all want the country to be more prosperous and free and people to be less oppressed or whatever. And so we're going to argue about tax rates, and I think higher tax gets us there. I'm a Keynesian, and you disagree, you're an Austrian or whatever. But the objective is the same. And so we write our papers, and they write their papers, and may the best papers win. I don't think that's what we're watching now at all. I don't think we're watching a debate over how to get to the best outcome. I think that's completely wrong. And I've come to this conclusion, and I should say at the outset I'm an Episcopalian, so don't take any theological advice from me, because I don't have any. I grew up in the shallowest faith tradition that's ever been invented. It's not even a Christian religion at this point, I say with shame. But I'm just saying this as an observer of what's going on. There is no way to assess, say, the transgenderist movement with that mindset. Policy papers don't account for it at all. If you have people who are saying, I have an idea, let's castrate the next generation. Let's sexually mutilate children. I'm sorry, that's not a political debate. What? There's nothing to do with it.
Like, I just wanted to have you hear it from his own mouth, right? That, like, the transgenocide that's going on is just well established now. Like, even Tucker Carlson is basically just saying out loud in front of everybody that we're castrating the next generation. Like, there's a total detachment of reality that's happened amongst people in the right, amongst the Christians on the right, that, like, literally we're no longer capable of even having a discussion. They're outright saying in front of our faces for everyone to hear that it's not even a political discussion, right? While what's so funny about it is that the right is the one that has politicized this issue. That for everyone in the society who supports trans people and supports things, this is a medical issue. That this is an issue of dealing with the medical needs of a person who has spawned in with this lived reality of their existence. That's why the American Medical Association talks about trans people, right? That it's the right that has politicized this issue and then pretends as though it's the left that's gone loony about it. Like, the right is the one passing legislation. The right is the one doing these things, and the right is now saying, and if you listen to this and if you continue listening to this, he outright just says that what is happening is a fight between good and evil. Like, that this is a fight between good and evil, that it's not political. So what we are watching is the rise of Nazism. Because once these guys start to say that we are right with the righteous backing of a fundamentalist truth, then they no longer need to defend anything politically. That they will get into power and they will do what they are doing because it is right to do. Exclusively, so they will say. And figures like Tucker Carlson, like Ben Shapiro. Now, C.R. Strivey, you're not the one who gets to say this. Yeah, after the trans people, it's going to be the Jews or some other minority group, the Muslims, the blacks, the Hispanics. Pick one. Like, in my mind, it is exactly the same as the abortion issue. It is exactly the same as the abortion issue. This is an issue between the people who are experiencing the situation and the medical community. Period. Full stop. No exceptions. That unless you can actually show that a serious crime has occurred, unless you can actually show that real sorry, Sierra Strifey, like I don't buy into any of this, what you're saying. Like I don't buy into anything that you're saying here. I listen to the American medical community, and if the American medical community is going to change its position, right, then they are right to do so, and they should. But the idea that we are like we're literally looking at legislation getting passed in states like this, dude. Like, come on. Like, come on. Yeah, they were saying the same stuff about gays. Yeah. They'll say anything that they can say in order to demonize people along a religious ideological position. That what we are looking at is very simply an issue that doesn't concern these people. It certainly doesn't concern you. It affects a vanishingly small group of people. And I'm absolutely dead certain that you can find within this small group of people certain situations that are unacceptable, just like literally everything else. Just like literally everything else. And what these people are doing, what these Christian fascists are doing, is they are taking these single moments and these things that occur because humanity exists and we are humans, and then blowing it up to be a big mass hysteria issue as if it is the thing that is happening, which is exactly what they did with the trans shooter, right? When there was a trans mass shooter, what did they say? This is a massive trans problem, and oh my God, the trans people are murdering people and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, they're not. That one of the shooters that happened to happen was also trans. That definitely is true, but the vast majority were straight. The vast majority. That what we are looking at is a genocide. That what we are looking at is a concerted effort by Christian fascists to purge the society of the unclean. And they're being very upfront about it. They're being very upfront about it. And once they're done with the trans people, just like the Nazis, they'll move in on another group, just like the Nazis. Because that's what we're looking at. We are looking at a rising fascist power that is going to internally purge people. And that's a serious thing that is for sure happening. That the concentration camps that they have on the border to round up immigrants, future generations are not going to be like, those were detention centers that had legitimacy. Like, those are concentration camps. And every single time, the strategy is exactly this. Okay, you're good. That's good. You're good. You're good. Lie down. And every single time, the strategy is exactly this. Find the one situation that you are allowed to grandstand about. Find the one person that is doing the one thing that everybody will agree is unacceptable, and then pretend as though that's the entire issue. And then legislate a universal issue on that one situation, pretending like that applies to everybody, and then just start rounding people up. Because that's what their plan is here. Like, that's where they're going towards. It's very clear and obvious to anyone who doesn't get caught up in the hysteria of all of this. And then once they're done doing that to the trans people, they'll move on to another group. Because that's their whole MO. And nobody. This dog, man. This dog. Yeah, it's really hard to listen to people argue about my existence in society. Nobody cared prior to 2016. Yeah, I suspect they'll take a swing at the gay community. I suspect that'll happen. But they're going to pick on whoever's weak enough. Like, this is how fascists work, right? That fascists pick on the weak. That's the whole point. And I've made this argument several times, and I'll continue to make this argument, that it's academics and people on the left that create a political argument for why this behavior exists. So, yeah, CR Stripe, fully grown adults can do what they want, and and you don't have more right to their children than they do. Full stop. You don't have more rights to their children than they do. I don't know why we have this argument that the state should get involved in what children and adults have. Like literally, this is an issue that exists between the adults, the children, and the doctors. It's the exact same as abortion. It's the exact same as any medical procedure that exists. It is precisely and exactly the same. And this framing of it being child abuse is the excuse that these people are using. Oh man, my dog's losing his mind. And I know why. It's because I'm talking so forcefully and he's picking up on that energy. You know how dogs do. They just pick up on the energy. Because I feel very passionate about this, because what we are looking at, objectively, from any position you want to look at it, is a rising fascist state that is doing exactly the things that fascists do, and the pathetic excuses that get used in order to justify this genocide do not stand. They don't stand the most basic of scrutiny. That the second you step out from the hysteria, the second you step down from the hysteria, the just overt craze, oh, but the children are being, the second you step down from that and let your brain actually take over and think about it for 30 seconds, the sooner you'll recognize that parents have more right to consent with their children than you do, by a lot. By a lot. I bet you dollars to donuts, bud, that if I look into this story, I bet you dollars to donuts there's going to be a lot more about that. Like, I almost guarantee this is just right-wing fascist hysteria. Like, I'm sure that they shut down, but I bet you it's a much more complex story than what you're presenting here. Like, I bet you watched like a TikTok video about this, right? Like, the Nazis and the fascists have billions of dollars at their disposal. And they will lie to you. Obviously. And they're overtly going after a small minority group. And like I said, they're going to try to find the one thing so that they can justify the rounding up of these people. And so, yes, it is a hysteria. Yes, you are caught up in a hysteria. You know how I know? Because you care about an issue that you shouldn't care about at all. This is such a small, like, nobody should be talking about trans people at all. Like, nobody should be talking about trans parents at all. Like, nobody should be talking about this at all. For real. Like, nobody should be talking about trans people at all. Let them live their own life. Let them live their own life. Stop justifying an obvious genocide. Because that is exactly what you're doing right now, dude. Like, it's very obvious. Especially to the people who are actually living about it. Who are living through it. You're right, Command Genius. It's just regular fascism. You're right. You're right. Like, why don't I just make the argument that I saw a guy hit his kid once, so we should just allow the state to take away kids from people? Like, we should just start rounding up kids, right? Well, if you want to be specific, Command Genius, I mean, Nazism is a very specific political movement that happened throughout World War II. And it's pretty unlikely that what we'll see is Nazism, but just straight up like fascism, right? It'll be a cross instead of a swastika is what it'll be. Like, people will come to see the cross no differently than the swastika, which I think is right. Yeah, and you're yawning. So you're tired. But you're all wound up. And I know why you're all wound up, dudes, because I'm all wound up. Yeah, right. Because in that single instance, a single thing. So I should pass legislation that lets us take away all the children then, right? Like, this is what's happening, CR Strifey. Like, I saw one kid get hit once by a grandpa, so we should take away all the children. Right? I saw a parent do something to their kid based on this trans thing, so we should remove all the trans kids. Right? Because that's what's happening. And you're just, I don't know why you're shutting your eyes on it. Like, I don't know why you're closing your eyes on it. Like, I don't know why you think you know more than the doctors and the nurses and the parents and the kids that are involved in the situation. Like, I don't know why you think you're closer to it than they are. Oh, my man. Calm down, okay? Hey, Milo, you're a good boy, buddy. I know. I'm basically yelling. I know. So you're catching that energy. I know. You're a good boy. Right. And so who should be the people who do that? Do you think it should be Christian fascists that do that? Or do you think it should be doctors, nurses, the parents, and the kids? Like, who do you think should actually be responsible for doing that? Should it be the medical experts, the people who are actually studying and investigating it, with the parents and the kids who are actually experiencing the thing? Or do you think it should be these Christian fascists? Like, who has the most credibility in this situation? And who's most interested in actually looking out for the well-being of the child? Right? That, yeah, certainly mistakes will get made. Like, certainly. No one's going to say anything other than that. Like, certainly mistakes will get made. But I would rather see mistakes get made than see overt, obvious Nazi-level fascists make legislation about it. Yeah, and a lot more abuse is going on in churches. Like, I don't know why we're ceding power to these guys. Why we're saying that these guys are actually being honest about what their objective is. Like, do you actually believe that these Christian fascists... Like, what's so weird about this conversation, Shiar Strifey, is that you're basically putting yourself on the side of overt Nazi-level Christian fascists and saying the overt Nazi-level Christian fascists should definitely be passing this legislation. Like, how about no? And how about if there are mistakes that are happening, and if there are things that are happening, then it's probably the medical community and the children and the parents that are the ones that are going to figure it out and work it out. Like, it's not going to be you. Yeah, you obviously do, though. Like, you're on their side. Like, they're the ones passing the legislation. They're the ones that are doing this stuff. Like, the people investigating it are Christian fascists. People like Matt Walsh. Right? Theocratic fascist Matt Walsh. And what, the people investigating and not endorsing gender affirmation have been disappeared? Like, what? What the fuck are you even talking about? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about, bro? People have been disappeared. What are you even fucking talking about? Like, what, do you think the trans community is like this enormous, like, cabal of underground people? Like, do you genuinely think that this is like this small group? Like, do you genuinely think that this small, tiny group of vulnerable people are like disappearing people in the night? Yeah, you know what I love about that comment, right? Is that nobody has any problem whatsoever about like the child pageants when it's straight. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting how we've had all these child pageants for just like literally decades and decades, where we've had like the sexualization of children right in front of our eyes. But as long as it's straight, it's fine. Like, as long as it's Nicki Minaj, right? Right? Like, as long as it's Nicki Minaj shaking her ass in front of kids, that's fine. Right, but no legislation's getting passed about it. Right? Nobody's passing legislation about that. Nobody's rounding up trans people over that. Like, nobody's rounding up the straights over that. Like, nobody's putting in dress code over that. Right? So they might say they care, but they don't care. Not really. It's only when it's trans people. Well, then we need to lock them up. Then we need to round them up. Then we need to ban this. Right? Like, that's what's weird about this conversation, is that it seems like every time something's brought up, it's just it's magnified and made special, as if it's not completely consistent with all of the other behavior that's going on in humanity and in the society. Like, it's completely consistent. But what are you doing? You're taking the small, vulnerable minority group that's participating in an activity that everyone else is also participating in, singling them out, and then passing legislation to ban what they are doing, but not what everybody else is doing. It's exactly what's happening. And it's creepy and weird, bro. It's creepy and weird as fuck. Like, that's creepy. Okay. Holy cow, man. My dog is losing his mind. And I understand, right? I understand. We're talking about something very serious. We're talking about something very serious, aren't we, Milo? We're talking about something very, very serious. And we're having a very serious conversation with somebody who doesn't seem to understand what the stakes are actually for people who are out there. That trans people are just acting in exactly the same consistent manner as the rest of the society, and they're being singled out for it. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh yeah, Fabala is kind of hitting it as well, because I do often find that this is the case. This was certainly the case in the gay issue, right? That a lot of why Christians and people were pushing back on the gay issue when that was happening throughout the 80s and 90s was it really did all come down to straight white men being afraid to ask themselves if they are gay. That really what it came down to. Okay, man, lie down, buddy, lie down. You're losing your mind. Lie down, shush, my man. You're losing your mind. Shush. But that's really, I think, like, there is something to this, and I watched that happen in my own communities with the gay issue. Was that it finally did come down to like all of these straight white men asking themselves and finding a place of safety to be able to actually ask themselves, well, am I gay? No, or maybe yes, or maybe a little. And feeling at ease with this, realizing that just because that guy is gay doesn't mean he's going to suddenly go after you, right? Like that there's all of these threats and all this are kind of, they don't matter and they're non-existent. But the trans issue is much more difficult, I think, right? Because it is fundamentally asking bigger questions. What is a man? What is masculinity? What is it to be like? And the projection is so real. Like Matt Walsh isn't walking around saying, what is a man? Matt Walsh is walking around saying, what is a woman? Because I think he's too scared to address the issue and too scared to actually look into himself and actually say, well, what is a man? Right? What is that? Right? Like, what is a man? And it's why he can't seem to grasp or understand, like, that there's a difference between, like, the biological definition, like the biological nature of it, and the identity, the societal structure of it. That those are two separate things that are loosely connected to one another. That in some ways inform one another, sort of. But it's a very difficult conversation for people to grapple onto and grasp a hold of, especially if they're highly incentivized not to. Right? If you're highly incentivized not to, then it's very difficult. Command Genius says, one of my friends were groomed by a pedo that just so happened to be trans, and now they fell down to the right-wing pipeline due to trauma. Yeah. Like, this is fundamentally the backbone of what is happening, is that trans people are acting exactly in line with the rest of the society, right? Precisely in line with the rest of the society, and represent the percentage of the things that are happening that is equivalent to the percentage of people who are trans, right? So you've got 1,000 shootings, 3 of them are trans people, right in line, right? Right in line. And what the far-right fascists and Christian fascists are doing is exactly what they've always done, which is they're slicing that group out and then blaming them for the entire thing, which is what they've always done and will always continue to do. Okay, you're fine. What is it, buddy? For real. What is it? You guys got to see what I'm dealing with here. Like, holy cow. Like, I'm trying to talk to you and trying to talk to you about this very serious issue, and I got this little dog who's just like, like, holy cow, dude. Like, what? What could you possibly need? You've eaten, you've had food, you had treats, you've had play, you've had walks, you've peed, you've pooed, I've given you love. We've had kisses. What is it that you could possibly want? What is it that you could possibly want? Not even that. Come lie down, buddy. Come on. Come lie down. Oy. But I wasn't questioning anything about my sexuality or gender at 4 years old. I don't have any memories of that period of time, actually. Then how do you know you weren't? Like, if you don't have any memory of it. The only way to stop a bad trans person with a gun is to arm all the good trans people with guns. Guns for all the trans people. Is this just kisses, buddy? Is that what this all is about? Do you just need kisses? I know, you're trying to solve the world's problems with kisses. That's exactly what it's about, isn't it, buddy? Milo just wants to solve all the world's problems with kisses. Milo sees that I'm in distress, and he's thinking to himself, I know how to solve this problem. I'm going to solve this problem with kisses. Milo, dude, I don't have any treats. There's no more treats, dude. You're done. Ugh, sorry about this, guys. Like, it seems like really funny to me that this whole stream is getting derailed by a little pug. And Contan's saying something I think that's really important, and something that I continuously hear over and over and over and over and over and over again when I go and talk to trans people, when I go and talk to gay people. When I go talk to trans people, when I talk to gay people, when I talk to these. So, C.R. Strivey, you've just decided that it's indoctrination. That's all. You've just closed your mind to the idea that a trans person should be allowed to read stories to children. You just view reading stories to children as indoctrination. So you've decided that it's harmful, even though it's completely innocuous. You've just decided that they're trying to indoctrinate people. That's all you've done. You've just closed your mind to it. You've just decided to be a bigot. You've chosen the path of bigotry. Yeah, then Christianity is indoctrination too. Then everything is indoctrination then. There's literally no such thing as just somebody reading it. So if I read a story to a child, why is that not indoctrination? Like, if I read a story to a child, why is that not indoctrination? Because I'm not wearing a dress? Yeah, I have pretty solid evidence of it, dude. Stop watching Matt Walsh. Stop reading Matt Walsh, dude. Like, stop reading Matt Walsh. Stop listening to Matt Walsh. Stop listening to these people. They're Nazis and fascists, bud. Like, please, for the love of God, when you're scrolling your TikToks and Matt Walsh comes up, scroll away. For the love of God. You're taking Nazis and like, what you are saying to me is Nazi shit. Like, you're taking little shitty TikTok videos that you're seeing. Yeah, but so what? Who cares? You don't have a medical degree. What do you know? Like, what do you know? You know nothing. You're coming at me with shitty TikTok videos that are basically, like, I'm talking to like a little Matt Walsh right here. Yeah, and they changed it. Because the professionals decided that it wasn't helpful. Because they know more than you do about the subject. What the fuck do I know? I know I should listen to professionals. I know that I'm smart enough to understand that I'm not smart enough to make a decision on this, that I should listen to professionals. That's what I know. That we should defer to the people who are actually doing the studies and doing the work and doing and are involved in the process. That we shouldn't listen to creepy little Nazis like Matt Walsh. Yeah, I'll get right on that, bud. Stop listening to Matt Walsh. Stop going to creepy little Daily Wire. Like, when you're... You know why they do this, dude, right? that what they're doing is they're spending millions of dollars to get on your feed so that you will do exactly what you're doing right now. So that you will watch them commit a genocide in front of your eyes and think to yourself, that's good, they deserve it. It's exactly what's happening in front of my eyes right now. That you are taking singular events and deciding that that's the whole story because fucking literal Nazis like Matt Walsh told you so. Like this is creepy what you're doing. Creepy and weird at the highest possible level. And you're going to look back on this period of time and you're going to recognize it. You're going to see that it was creepy and weird, and I hope you remember this conversation about the time that you were a creepy fucking Nazi little fascist weirdo. Because that's what you're doing right here. And you should feel bad about it. I hope you do feel bad about it. And I hope you don't come back. Because what you're doing is fucking creepy. We should round up minority groups because they're putting dresses on and dancing in front of kids. Like, creepy and weird. Creepy and weird. And you can question it all you want. I don't see you complaining that they're doing this shit, though, dude. Like, I don't see you actually being concerned that they're passing legislation about this shit. Like, I don't see any concern about that. Right? Seems to me like the concern is how do we do the most damage to a minority group? Like, I wish you wouldn't, honestly, Milo. I wish you wouldn't. Like, Milo's just like, play with me, 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 play with me. Like, literally all the trans people in my life right now would be spitting nails. And all the trans people in the chat right now are spitting nails. Because they know exactly what it is you're doing. Pug life. Like, oh no, a person put on a dress and read a story to a kid. Oh no. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, oh no. Like, oh no, a trans person did a bad thing. Oh no. Like, everything that has been said is coming from a place of deep, 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 deep fear. Deep fear. And usually that fear is rooted in the self. That's usually what it is. You know what? I'm going to play this song. I was just a little boy when my mom and dad divorced. Through my tantrums, cried my tears, I'd keep their vows by force. Now that I'm an older man, I see it had to be this way. My love for them, it keeps on growing each and every day. Time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. Every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can, and though they're not the people I expected they would be, well, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. 10 years, me and my wife, we traveled round the world. Sacred vows and shared regrets, they filled our lives with hope. Then one day she tells me that a man is not for her. Those 10 years are a memory now, but my love for her still stirs. Time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though she's not the person I expected she would be, well, I love her all the same. I just want her to be free. My love had a little girl, a scrappy tomboy type. I watched her blossom like a flower, but she felt not quite right. Then one day she tells me she's a young man, not a girl. I picked her up and held her close and sent my son into the world. And time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though he's not the person I expected he would be, well, I love him all the same. I just want him to be free. And though they're not the people that I expected they would be, well, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. If I step back and think that the people who are putting forward their concern about this particular issue are being honest, that they're not being disingenuous, that they are actually genuinely concerned, well, then the truth of the matter is that whether you like it or not, the people who know more about what's going on and know how to deal with this issue are the doctors, the parents, and the kids. And are there going to be mistakes? Obviously. But you wouldn't do better. Not by a mile. It feels like backseat quarterbacking. Yeah, Cotton, if you go to my band camp, you'll find it there. Oh, it's been so long since I've looked. I always assumed it was. Oh, shoot. I'll record that one straight away. Shows you how much time and effort I have to put into that. I should record this one. Thanks, Cotton. Thank you for that. You know, this song has been a real creeper, you know? I've been thinking a lot about my music recently. And I've written a lot of music in my day, and I've thrown most of it out. And I think it's because a lot of the music that I've been producing has not been for you, for the audience. It's been for me. That I've been producing a lot of music that is about my own catharsis and my own pain. But when I present it to other people, it is kind of masturbatorial. It's not, and I don't think it helps people to dredge your own pain in front of them. But there's a series of tracks and a series of songs that I've been doing that are not about my own pain, they're about healing that pain. And I think when you sing these songs that are about healing the pain that people feel, it carries a lot more weight. Well, I'll get it recorded for you, Cotton. Hell, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Still, eh? You're still like this, eh? You're still just losing your little puggy mind, eh? Even after that beautiful song. And the thing, this song has power, you know? I think it does have power. It's got a power that most of my other music has never had. That I would say that my other music has been good, but this song truly does have a power to it. And the power of it is that I think it takes somebody by the hand. I genuinely believe that it has the power to take a person by the hand and lead them through emotional territory that is somewhat well-trodden. Divorce, taking them into slightly uncharted territory, but not that unfamiliar, and then pushing them into the deep end and making them feel safer about it. I think that song has the potential to change hearts and minds for the better. While simultaneously, and I think that this is really very important, not condemning people for the way they feel. That's so important, I think. That fundamentally it's a song about forgiveness. It's a song about recognizing that we make mistakes or we feel certain ways about certain things, and that's okay. And I think the real power of that song is that final phrasing. Though they're not the people that we expected they would be, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. Well, thank you, Fabal. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. I think that's a good note to end on. Let's end it on that note. All right, everybody. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.